Okay guys, so welcome back. Yesterday last lesson we covered the strategic role of financial management. Okay, so remembering that the key things about the strategic role of financial management are it's efficient and it's the effective use of capital to allow a business to achieve its objectives, whatever those objectives are. And that strategic really means the long term. Okay, it's the long term objectives of the business and it's the whole business. It's the whole of Qantas, it's the whole of Apple, whatever that business is. It's the whole of IKEA. Okay, now we're going to move on to some objectives of financial management. Okay, so if you're the CFO, the Chief Financial Officer of a business, your job is to try to ensure, obviously in partnership with the senior management of the business and all the other employees of the business, but your job is to try to ensure that that business is profitable, that it achieves some level of growth, it is efficient, it has liquidity, and it's solvent. Certainly, hopefully, it's not insolvent. So today we're going to cover three of those objectives. We're going to go with profitability, growth, and efficiency. And then we'll cover liquidity and solvency next lesson. Okay, so in terms of profitability, well, what actually is profitability? At its most simple level, profitability is total revenue, so TR, minus your total costs, TC. So effectively, it's the money that's coming into the business through sales, i.e. your total revenue, less expenses that relate to costs, total costs. So for Qantas, think about what their total revenue is. How is Qantas generating revenue? It's people buying airline tickets. Costs, what are their costs? Well, they're significant. Wages, lease costs on aircraft, finance costs, so the interest of borrowing capital, oil, buying oil, all of those things are their costs. So they've got to marry those up. They've got to try and have more revenue coming into the business through the sale of airline tickets versus the costs that they are incurring to allow them to achieve profit. Okay, and it's why for a number of years, I think from 2009 to 2014, Qantas did not make a profit. Why? Because their revenue was less than their costs. Okay, and they weren't profitable. They were the price of oil was going up. Their wages costs were going up, they had too many staff, and their costs were far too high. And Alan Joyce, the CEO over the last number of years, the last 2 years in particular, has really reduced their cost base. He's cut 3,000 staff. He's reduced their costs. He's moved some of their businesses offshore to reduce the cost of running that business so that they can become profitable again. And he's achieving one of their key objectives of being profitable. So clearly a business is trying to maximize its revenue, minimize its expenses to maximize profit. It's a pretty simple equation. Obviously there's a lot more to it than just that, but maximize our revenue, i.e. the money that's coming into the business through sales, minimize our expenses, wages, rent, electricity, other utilities like water, minimize those expenses so we can maximize our profit. Okay, we'll have a look at this video in class. It's a video about Qantas and the challenges that they've undertaken to try to come back to profitability. And it's been a hard road, but they have achieved it. And Alan Joyce has done an excellent job. Okay, so here's some additional information. That's profitability really in a really basic sense. Okay, but what else about profitability is important to understand? Well, number one, it's the key role of a financial manager to get that profitability as good as it can be. In saying that though, as a financial manager, you've got to make sure that you're keeping everyone relatively happy within your organisation. Okay, it's no good having the best profitability of any company in Australia or any company globally or any company in relation to your competitors if you're alienating your employees, so you're not paying them enough, or you're not providing them with a workplace which is safe because you're trying to cut costs. So there is a balancing act there in terms of reducing cost, yes, but doing so in a manner that is going to ensure the business is well received by the people who are working there and also by its other stakeholders and its customers. Okay, these are things that I've already spoken about. So reducing costs, increasing revenue should lead to increased profit. And another important point there, and this is something that Qantas has done really well, it satisfies its shareholders, so those people who are public owners of that business, and also the owners. The owners might be the shareholders, or if it's a private company, it would be the owners themselves. And also, an important point, that profitability is going to ensure job security. If the business is profitable, it's going to be able to keep people employed within that organisation. And also, it's going to make it easier to borrow capital in the future, to attract capital, and just generally going to mean the business is going to continue to be viable. If Qantas was still running the losses they were running for that period I mentioned before, 2009 to 2014, they may not well be in operation anymore because they just could not sustain those losses and that lack of profitability for much longer. Okay, the second objective we're going to cover today is growth. One key objective a business might have, not all businesses have, but one objective they might have is growth. Okay, we want to grow this business by 10% per annum per year. How would you measure growth? That's up to the individual business. They might measure it by profitability increases. They might measure it by the number of people they employ. They might measure it by the number of items that they sell. They might measure it by the number of tickets that they sell for their particular airline. Growth can be measured in many different ways, but it may well be an objective of the organisation. So it's all about size. It's increasing the size of the business, yes, but that's going to come through the growth within the business. So selling more airline tickets like Qantas, selling more cricket bats if you're a cricket bat manufacturer. If you're a school, you're having more students come through your school, whatever it is. Now, the one key thing about growth that's important to understand is it's going to require finance. It's going to require capital. Okay, and that's often done. That growth is often inorganic, so that means buying up another business. Or it might be organic. That means internal. So just growing from within, not growing by buying another business and making your bigger business through a merger or through an acquisition, but doing so via growing and just becoming bigger. Apple has done that, although they have over the years bought businesses here or there, but generally their growth has been quite organic. Qantas is the same. Their business has been quite organic. They haven't really gone out and bought major competitors or other businesses to make their business bigger. Okay, and Amcor, here's an example of a business we'll have a look at in class in terms of achieving growth via acquisition, so inorganic growth. Okay, and I'll leave that there. Next video, I'll start with efficiency.